Hey guys, John V here from Phone Reno. Right now you're watching our in-depth video review of the Apple iPhone 5S. Now we're in one of those years where we have an S-branded iPhone, so just like the iPhone 3GS and the 4S before it, the iPhone 5S retains its predecessor's design to the teeth, with the exception of some new color schemes available for it. Aside from that, it sees all the upgrades in the specs department. So for example, it's the very first smartphone to feature a 64-bit mobile processor. We also have a brand new Touch ID biometric fingerprint sensor below the display that's incorporated into the home button. And also it features some updated internals with the camera, so it has a larger aperture lens. The biggest thing undertaking thus far is going to be the new iOS 7 experience that's packing along. So we're going to find out how it all comes together to see whether or not the iPhone 5S can really fend off the competition for the next 1 year or so. Yes, so here it is, the brand new Apple iPhone 5S. The design is actually the same as its predecessor. Nothing different about it from its overall design, its styling, dimensions, weight. It is pretty much to the teeth, just like the iPhone 5, but there are some new additions here, which we're going to mention in a little bit. So first and foremost, the design is pretty iconic. You have that brushed stainless steel band across the sides, and on the back you have that brushed aluminum casing, which gives it its premium aspect and also a fair amount of sturdiness, so it still has that solid feel in the hand. Compared to some of the larger size smartphones out there in the market, the iPhone 5S continues to be very form-fitting, very easy to hold with one hand. It has some chamfered beveled edges, which gives it its iconic looks. And this time around, it's available in 3 distinct colors. You have the usual white one from last year. You have this new space gray edition that we have, which is a lighter tone gray version of last year's black one. And you have also the bronze, light bronze or champagne colored gold edition of the iPhone 5S, which gives people just some variety in which one to select. Overall though, we're not really enamored by the design, but it continues to be one of the more premium looking and feeling smartphones on the market. At a certain time, the Retina display was once proclaimed as being the most detailed display out there, but with the iPhone 5S here, nothing really special about it. It's the same display that's on the iPhone 5 before it. 4-inch Retina display with a pixel resolution of 1136 by 640, which translates to a pixel density of 326 pixels per inch. It's respectable, but nothing really astounding in this day and age. Still able to make out some fine details, very sharp looking, and being an IPS LCD-based panel, retreat to some very natural looking colors, not as oversaturated compared to those tones put out by AMOLED panels, so you get a very nice color reproduction with this. And on top of that, it has a great outdoor visibility when you combine its wide viewing angles and also its strong brightness output, so it doesn't wash out like some other panels out there. So if you're going to be outdoors using it, you can still see everything on screen. Seeing that its design is identical to its predecessor, it features all the same buttons and ports around its trim. So on the left edge, we have the mute switch along with the separated volume controls, volume up and volume down. They're separated, raised, and have very good tactile responses. While on the right, we just have the slot for the nano SIM slot. Up top, we have the physical power button, which is placed more towards the right edge. Again, it's raised, so it has a very distinctive feel, and it's also super springy as well. So the cool thing about the new fingerprint scanner is that it's used to unlock the smartphone. So you just place your thumb over the scanner and automatically lock the device. And on top of that, it actually will also work in conjunction with app purchases. So instead of using your password or inputting your password, you can just use the Touch ID fingerprint scanner to do that. So it's mainly reserved for it, and those fingerprints that are saved on the phone are stored locally in the processor, the A7 processor, and it's not something that's stored in the clouds. Setting up Touch ID is also fairly simple. You just go to settings, and from there you select the fingerprints option, and from here you could associate your different fingers, your fingerprints, and basically you just gotta just tap your finger across the Touch ID sensor until it maps out pretty much the good majority of your fingerprint. And then from here it's going to tell you to adjust your grip, and you could keep on just tapping your finger on the sensor itself until it completes the process, and we'll show you exactly how it's done. And it says success. So now basically if you turn off the device, turn it on, that finger that we use, we could actually use it to unlock the device. And finally, there's the new updated iSight camera in the rear of the iPhone 5S. It still has the same megapixel size as before, which is 8 megapixels, but it packs some new gear to really make it special. To be exact, it now has a larger aperture lens, f2.2. It features larger size pixels, 1.5 micropixels to be exact. It also has a backside illuminated sensor, and now 2 LED flashes, one amber, one white, to get better skin tones when you use the flash. The iPhone 5S is filled with some really cool hardware, but what really makes us intrigued about the handset the most is the new and updated iOS 7 experience. It's a refreshing look just because for a while there, iOS looked rather stale and a little bit antiquated with its visual presentation, but with iOS 7, which of course is available on the iPhone 5, the iPhone 4, and 4S, here on the iPhone 5S, seeing that it is a new handset, it's just really nice. They've added a lot of cool animations. They changed up the way some of these tasks are accomplished, like multitasking, but at the end of the day, it still has that great foundation of being just so simple to use. So for new users out there, there's an easy learning curve with it, and it just works. We won't go into too much detail about what we like and don't like about it, but there are some noteworthy things I will point out. So first and foremost, we have an updated notification center. You just swipe down, you can see all your notifications, and it's nice just because from here we have access to quite a few different things like a calendar, we have reminders too, we have our stocks, and even some upcoming appointments, and it breaks it down to different categories like today, all, and missed. It might seem like a little bit cluttered just because of all the other stuff that's in play, but it still works. The only things that we wish that there was a little bit more functionality in its offerings. For example, like how with Android's notifications panel, you could actually archive emails within the notifications panel. That's not something yet we have here with iOS 7. Secondly, we have Control Center, which is a one-stop hub for all the connectivity needs and also some other functions as well. And it's accessible at any time by just doing a swipe up from the bottom bezel of the screen. And from here, we have access to quite a few things, which we really appreciate, rather than going into the settings menu and changing them. So for example, up top, we have the connectivity features. We could turn on airplane mode, Bluetooth, and even the Wi-Fi option. We could adjust the brightness on the fly, which is fantastic. And we have, of course, a mini music player on board as well, so we could track forward, reverse, and do all that. And finally, we could also enable AirDrop and have access to things like the camera, calculator, compass, and even the flashlight. And like I said, it's just wonderful that we have all this right at hand just by doing that swipe up gesture. Apple has really paid attention to the smallest detail with the iOS 7 experience, and we'll point that out here. For example, it has some really cool animations when you're launching applications or closing them down. You can tell right there, as we launch the music player, it has a maximizing animation going on, and we go back to the home screen, it does that minimizing dip. So it's pretty neat. You also have that translucent look when something's layered on top of something else. So for example, here with the notification center, you can see how the background is somewhat blurred out, which gives it really nice appeal with its presentation. And other small things worth mentioning is, for example, the clock widget here. It's actually a working clock, so it shows the actual time, but unfortunately, it's only reserved for that. Some of the other stuff, for example, like the weather app or the weather icon right here, it's not a dynamic, so it stays static like before. It'd be nice to see some updates, like for example, temperature, and also in some of the other applications as well. Now, some people probably agree that the multitasking aspect of the platform takes its page out of what we find with WebOS. So when you double tap the home button right here, you're going to have these many windows of all the open apps that you have. Now, before, we just found it to be a lot quicker closing them out just because you held down on one of the icons, it starts to jiggle, and from there you'd be able to close down all the application by simply tapping on the X's in one place. But with this now, it seems a little bit more tedious just because we've got to go through each and every one and swipe up, swipe up, swipe up, and keep on doing that until all of them are closed down. It's been just nice to see a function where it closed down all the applications. At the end of the day, it's just refreshing to experience iOS 7. It's a long time coming, and quite frankly, it really complements the iPhone 5S. The visuals have been, of course, improved, a lot of attention to small details, and it just harkens to that age-old foundation of just being a simple platform to understand. So if you're a first-time user, you're not going to have any problems getting around, and that's just what makes the iPhone so great to use. Take a quick peek at the core organizer apps with iOS 7. We'll admit that the visual presentation has been changed up. Mostly it's been reserved to just color changes, but the overall functionality has remained unchanged. So it's not as complex compared to what we see with Android and its Google Now service. So that's the calendar there. We have the weather widget right here, weather app. So here we could swipe through all the different locations. Shows us the temperature and the weather conditions of all the places. And if we do a swipe gesture like that, we could see all the listing in one scrollable list like so. The clock application, nothing has changed except for just the color. Now it has like a white kind of grayish look to it, whereas before I believe it was black. You have also the stock. Again, it changes up with the color presentation, but nothing is different about its functionality. And finally, we have other secondary utility functions like the calculator right there. You have the compass and the notes, which has changed up a little bit with its presentation. With the introduction of the iOS 7 experience, Siri also gets updated too. It has a more natural human voice, and I'm going to quickly demo that here. How tall is Michael Jordan?
Checking my sources. Michael Jordan is 6 feet, 6 inches tall.
What's the weather like today?
Nice weather coming up today, up to 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
So you could tell the voice is not as robotic as before, so it's a little bit better in that aspect, but still not quite as complex in terms of its functionality or its totality when compared to Google Now with Android. So it might not have as a spacious keyboard layer compared to some of those giant-sized Android smartphones out there, but the messaging experience here on the iPhone 5S is still fantastic just because it's great for one-handed operation with its layout. It's super responsive and has a really killer autocorrect feature, so you could type pretty much in a steady rate with very few mistakes. We've never complained about it in the past just because it works, and we're not going to start right now. With the introduction of iOS 7, mobile Safari also gets updated as well, and you could tell just with the web browser here, we have full web browsing support. As we start scrolling, you can see how the unified search bar up top just minimizes, and with the unified search bar, you could input your URLs or even just do generic searches, and it'll populate some things online for you. It has 4G LTE connectivity, so it's super fast with its page loads, instant page rendering. It has spot-on kinetic scrolling and pinch zooming, so it's a fantastic experience with that. You have also some additional functionality too. You could share it via usual channels, Twitter, Facebook, and even AirDrop if you want. And now it's neat that it has this very cool 3D tab viewing with all the open browsers that you have. So you can easily close them down by hitting the X button on the top left corner or just swiping to the left. Truly the first of its kind, the Apple iPhone 5S features a brand new processor based on 64-bit architecture. It's Apple's brand new A7 processor. Now, we're not going to see a whole lot of difference between this and the performance of the iPhone 5 before. It's still pretty quick with basic tasks such as surfing the web, opening up applications, and even playing some 3D games. It's pretty much unchanged with the performance. But as developers down the road make good use of the processor, we're bound to see some even cooler looking games. Even right now, checking out Epic Citadel on the iPhone 5S here, we noticed that it is a lot more fluid, a lot more finesse in just panning, and just the overall responsiveness is definitely improved. So down the road, we hope to see some more fine tuning to better adapt and make good use of this new processing technology. Say it ain't so, but it is true, folks. Cover flow mode is now gone with the iPhone. Instead, it's been replaced by this new layout. Basically, it's just a grid-like, listing of all the albums on your phone. From here, you could just select an album cover, and from there, you'll be able to actually play a track. But doesn't have the same appeal or visual presentation of cover flow. Besides that, the overall style in the music player hasn't changed. You have all the functions available to you. The thing new about it with the introduction of iOS 7 is iTunes Radio, which is basically a streaming music service similar to Pandora. So you select your stations, and from here you could skip songs or you could like it. And of course, the more you like something, it'll be able to better adapt to your taste. As far as the audio quality with the speaker, we actually don't notice any difference between this and the iPhone 5 before. It's still pretty powerful and strong, decent amount of robustness. It's still a process trying to get HD videos loaded onto the iPhone 5S. I still have to do some conversion with it. But once you do, the experience is pretty fantastic just because it plays high definition videos flawlessly. And on top of that, the screen's just wonderful. It's bright, it's sharp, and it's great for outdoor visibility. We would like to see some other cool features like what we see on some of the Samsung devices out there and the LG G2. But we can't really complain just because it works when it comes to just playing high definition videos. Here's the revamped camera UI found with the iPhone 5S. In general, all the iOS 7 devices out there. So what's nice is that it's still very simple and easy to use, but still lacking when it comes to just shooting modes. And there's pretty much zero manual controls available to it. So you have the viewfinder that takes the majority of the space. On the left side, we could switch to the front-facing camera, set on HDR mode, turn on or off the flash. You have touch focus enabled. You can zoom in by doing pinch gestures like so. And on the right, we have the shutter key, and you could switch between the modes. We have a slow motion video mode, standard photo. We have square, which is perfect for things like Instagram or Vine. And we have panoramic, of course. The other neat thing is that you have now this color option mode here, which shows us the color options available in real time. So we have I believe 8 to choose from. You have noir, chrome, instant, tonal, transfer, mono, fade, and process. It's nice it's on here, but we'd just like to see a little bit more depth with the shooting modes. So you're all probably dying to know, how does the brand new 8 megapixel iSight camera of the iPhone 5S compare against the competition out there? We'll be frank and say that it is superb with its quality. Definitely sharp looking overall, and we did compare the shots with an iPhone 5, and honestly, we didn't notice a whole lot of difference between it and the iPhone 5S with outdoor shots where there's plenty of lighting. It captures a great amount of detail, it's sharp looking, colors are accurate, and exposure is very balanced, so there's not that much to complain about it. However, its superiority is most evident with shots taken under lower lighting conditions. Now that's thanks in part to its larger aperture lens, f2.2 to be exact, its backside illuminated sensor, and the fact that it's packing, it has a larger pixel size, so it's able to capture in more light. I believe it's 33% more than the iPhone 5 before it. And what happens with that is that it's less prone to stuff like blurring and also hazy shots. And what composes are images that are pretty much balanced, not as noisy compared to the iPhone 5, so you get a lot sharper visuals. And again, the dynamic range is handled very well. You don't see areas that are too overexposed or underexposed. It just has that perfect balance. And to top it off, it now features dual LED flashes, one amber and one white color. So for those flesh tones, it's better able to adapt to them. Even though we saw some marked improvements with its still image capture quality, we don't notice a whole lot different here with its 1080p high definition video recording quality. And honestly, it's identical to the iPhone 5 before it. Now it's not that bad because it's still very pleasing to the eyes, very pleasant with its visuals. It captures a great amount of detail. Exposure is progressive, natural looking colors, and it captures video very smoothly. The only thing we wish to find is just continuous autofocus, but instead we just rely on touch focus, which works very well. You just tap on the screen to adjust the focus, and it keeps it fixed the entire time until you tap something else. One really neato feature of the iPhone 5S, it's the brand new slow motion video recording capture that's available with it. Now it shoots 720p videos at 120 frames per second to achieve that. Now what the neat thing about it is that you apply the slow motion effect post video recording. So after you shot the video, you go back, and from here you have these bumpers on the top. You could adjust it to exactly what time you want the slow motion effect to occur. So when you play back the video, you get this very cool matrix-like effect going on with it. And also slows down the audio recording as well. If you happen to love chatting on the phone for a long period of time, you'll really appreciate the quality with the iPhone 5S. It's wonderful in the fact that its earpiece and also speakerphone volumes are very potent and loud, so very robust. Voices through the earpiece are very natural in tone, very few background noise. But with the speakerphone, however, we do notice just a hint of distortion to voices. It's not bad per se. And finally, there's the noise cancellation feature, which works relatively quick in drowning out any background noise. Apple talked big about how better talk time is with the Apple iPhone 5S, but in all fairness, we don't notice a whole lot difference between the battery life of this and the iPhone 5 before it, and it's pretty much the same. We're still able to get by through 1 day of normal usage at a fully charged battery with 4G LTE connectivity in tow, and with power consumption, we're able to get by at least 10 hours before needing a charge, so it ends up being nothing more than average. But when we think long and hard about the iPhone 5S, it doesn't really pack a whole lot of innovation compared to some previous handsets out there. And when we look throughout the landscape and see what the competition is doing, it doesn't seem as profound compared to some of them. But regardless of that, the 5S is still a fantastic device. It's still a premium looking and feeling handset, solid construction. It works in the aspects that you want it to work. It's great for taking photos. It's fast, super responsive, and you have some cool, maybe some novel features in tow with it. For example, the new Touch ID biometric fingerprint sensor, and of course the 64-bit mobile processor, which will hopefully see more people take advantage down the road with different apps and games. For the $200 for 2-year contract, it's of course the natural price point we see with any flagship smartphone. And even though there's a host of other smartphones we could recommend, like the LG G2, the HTC Ones, the Galaxy S4s, the Xperia Z1s, the iPhone 5S is just that incremental upgrade with the iPhone series. It's a fantastic smartphone. It's not as overpowering in the specs department when you look at it on surface, but it still works. And that's the beauty of it. It's simple, easy, and it's honestly a great device. The experience also updated, so people will really appreciate that. So if you guys want to learn more about the Apple iPhone 5S, you could check out our website, phonearena.com. It's John V. Thanks for watching.